I'm going to do a valve cover gasket replacement on an NB2 Miata. I've seen a lot of valve cover gasket replacement videos on the NAs or the NB1s, but the NB2 is unique because it has variable valve timing. I'm not a mechanic professionally. Don't try this at home unless you're willing to take all responsibility for whatever you might screw up. You've been warned. First thing you're going to need to do before you start this process is take off the strut brace. These are 12mm bolts. They're not on there very tight. I don't think there's any particular torque specification on them, but I've already taken some of them off, so lift this off, take it out of the way. Also, considering if you have the variable valve timing mechanism here, which is this, and this, there's 2 bolts back here, there's a bolt here, and there's 2 bolts right here you can remove. These are 10mm. They're not torqued on there very tight either. What I think you need to do is remove these 2 bolts 10mm back here. And this is a 19mm banjo bolt. This banjo bolt does need to be loosened up because there's not enough room to lift this thing up. And it's on there pretty tight. I would be very careful with that. But I'm gonna snug it up just a little bit so I can move this oil line out of the way. Next up, looks like we have to take off a few wires. Take off these plug wires and the coils. Those are on there with 10mm also, so I think I removed those first. And they should pop right off. Not a lot of torque to take these off. These are the mounting for the coils and the spark plug wires. These go on pretty easy. Okay. 4, 3, 2, 1. Plug wires out of the way. Now for all the 10mm bolts around the outside of the valve cover. Gonna loosen them up first, then take them all out. Turns out this little bolt in the front doesn't actually do anything but hold this clip. So I put it back in so I won't lose it. So with this moved out of the way, I can now lift this up and take it out. And what do we got here? Oh, that's probably the old gasket stuck in there. And we don't want to mess up the timing belt. So we just kind of pull these things out as we go. Okay. There we have it. Looking at the valve cover side of things itself, this is actually pretty clean. The old gasket came out pretty easily. Doesn't seem to be any residue inside the channel, although I did run through it with a plastic. This is just a body panel popper. But I just ran through it there, and there's no oil in this part. There's an oil seal here. It looks pretty clean, so I'm not going to do much to this besides clean up the outside of it, which does have some dirt. That's a little valve, by the way. Don't lose that. That goes in up here. Here's the new gasket fitted to the valve cover, and the old one didn't look that bad, but this one does appear to have a little bit more elasticity to it. So I'm hoping it will fit a little tighter and solve my seepage problem. So I put just a little dab of sealant in each of these corners. A little is better than too much. Right there, that's where it was from the factory. Back here as well. And that should be enough to hold it down. Okay, well here we have it. It's all buttoned back up and put together. Everything went together pretty smoothly. I guess we'll have to start it up and see if it runs. But it looks good. The hardest part was that little banjo bolt down there. That was on there really tight. Everything else went together and torqued everything down to the 72 inch-pounds for all these gasket cover bolts. And it all went together pretty cleanly. So there you have it. Valve cover gasket replacement on an NB2 Miata with variable valve timing. It's a fairly easy job. I think anyone with average mechanical skills could probably do it in an hour and a half or so. The toughest part was that banjo bolt, which you do need to release to swing it out of the way. Everything else, just use your torque wrench on the small bolts so you don't break anything. Be careful, don't drop anything down the middle, and hope that solves your leaks.